Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are stepping into some really complex territory. It's sensitive, it's often controversial. We're talking about the phenomenon known as gang stalking.
Yeah, and the sources we have here are pretty unique. They don't just look at it as, coordinated harassment. They really blend psychological warfare with the metaphysical, with energetic frameworks.
Right. And that's our mission for this deep dive, to really get into the spiritual and energetic mechanics of it all. We want to move past the obvious stuff, the rumors, the behaviors, and try to understand how these silent attacks can dismantle someone's identity.
And their trust in their community, their spiritual clarity, all of it.
Exactly.
And the sources define it very specifically. They call it psychological engineering, energetic extraction.
Identity erosion, spiritual interference.
Right. And the key thing is that it's done by people and even institutions who pretend to be completely neutral.
That pretense is everything, isn't it? Because the weapons are basically invisible. We're talking about covert behaviors, hijacking someone's intuition, these shared glances.
Right. The things that are totally deniable.
Totally deniable. And they mention rumor ecosystems and energetic tagging. It's all designed so you can't prove a thing.
The subtlety is the effectiveness.
Okay, let's unpack this. If the weapons are invisible, then we have to look at the people involved. The sources call them spiritual proxies, which is a fascinating term. I was expecting, these evil masterminds.
Me too. But they're described more as vessels, like open circuit.
Open circuit. Wow.
Yeah.
So that completely changes how you'd respond.
It does. You can't reason with them in the same way. The sources actually break these proxies down into categories based on how susceptible they are, not just how malicious they are.
Okay, what are the categories?
So there are three main types. First, you have the willing. These are the easy ones to understand. They actually enjoy cruelty. They get a dopamine hit from that group power, that feeling of collective punishment.
That makes sense. I mean, you see that dynamic everywhere, people looking for someone to put down.
Precisely. Then the second group is the weak. This group they bend to influence. They follow whoever seems strongest. A boss, a religious leader, a family member.
And their motivation is just belonging.
It's avoiding the loss of belonging, the fear of being isolated or even becoming the next target themselves. It just makes them compliant.
So it's not even about hating the target. It's about their own fear of social death. That's a huge distinction.
It is. And then the third one is the most, let's say, metaphysical. The empty.
The empty.
Yeah. These are described as spiritually compromised people. They're basically conduits for oppressive thought forms or even entities that feed on low vibration states.
Like fear, envy, confusion.
Exactly. And they become really persuadable when their own ego feels, starved or insecure.
So it's less about a personal grudge and more like what the source calls energetic recruitment. The energy is the point, and the people are just the delivery system.
Yes. In the context of spiritual warfare, the goal isn't just to hurt the person. It's to continuously extract that low-frequency reaction from them. The proxy is often just a pawn in a bigger energy game.
Which brings us to the next logical question, the targeting. How does this system lock on to someone in the first place?
It's not just bad luck. The sources are very, very clear that this is frequency-based selection.
Okay.
Targets are marked. And the markers can be things like generational trauma, sure, or unhealed attachments. But the big one is their spiritual gifts, their destiny, something about them that threatens the status quo.
Hold on, let me just process that.
Yeah.
So a person is targeted not for their mistakes or their flaws, but for their potential, for their light.
That is the absolute core shift in perspective here.
Mm-hmm.
The sources say gang stalkers sense energy the way predators sense movement.
Wow.
They sense the target's light, their integrity, their spiritual authority, and it reads as a threat. It triggers this hunger, or it threatens their whole illusion of power. So the energetic assessment happens way before any physical harassment does.
Okay, if the targets are chosen for their potential, that makes this whole thing preventative.
Yeah.
Which leads us to the occult layer the sources talk about.
Right. And when they say occult, they're not necessarily talking about candles and cloaks.
No.
They're talking about ritualized attacks that happen in plain sight.
Which is so much scarier, really.
It is, because it's anchored in everyday behavior. The occult layer is about attacks powered by emotion, by belief, by consensus. It happens at the family dinner table, in a prayer group, around the office.
The collective emotional energy becomes the weapon.
It becomes the magic, yeah. And the tools are just twisted social interactions, group intention, gossip that acts like a spell, character assassination.
Two of the terms really stood out to me. false prophetic words,
Yeah.
and something called prayer surveillance.
Prayer surveillance is one of the most chilling concepts in here. It's basically psychic monitoring disguised as religious concern. It's it's a form of energetic tracking.
The weaponization of community trust.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And it all ties back to the purpose. Why are these specific people targeted? The profile is always the same. They're intuitive, they're truth tellers, healers, destined for some kind of impact.
Which is why the sources frame this whole thing not as punishment for something they did, but as prevention. It's a containment strategy.
A fear-based attempt to intercept destiny.
Exactly. The logic of the system is basically, if we can distort their identity, we delay their purpose. If we can isolate them, we control the story.
If we could overwhelm them, we hijack the timeline. For someone going through this, just hearing that must be a massive paradigm shift.
It is. It reframes your suffering as proof of your power, not your failure.
It changes it from victimhood into warfare.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the science of it.
Yeah.
Because even spiritual attacks have a biological impact, and this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, this is where we see how that trauma becomes a physical reality. The sources lay out 4 key mechanisms. The first is allostatic load. Basically, your body's stress system going into overdraft. The nervous system is always on, constantly scanning for threats. It leads to exhaustion, hypervigilance. It even suppresses your immune system.
So your own body is trained by the environment to never, ever feel safe.
Never. And that physical strain makes the psychological manipulation even more effective. That's the second mechanism. Memory reconsolidation.
Gaslighting, basically.
On a biological level, repeated confusion and gaslighting literally rewires your identity. You start to doubt your own memories, your own perception, and the source makes a key point here.
Right.
It's biology, not weakness.
Your brain is just processing the data it's being fed, even if the data is poison.
Precisely. And what about the group behavior? That's point 3, behavioral synchronization.
Like a hive mind.
A human hive mind running updates. That's the quote. The attack spreads almost like a virus. People start mirroring behaviors and narratives without ever being explicitly told to. It's an energetic contagion.
And all of that feeds into the fourth, and maybe the most insidious part, the perception distortion feedback loop.
Right. So the target feels attacked. Their nervous system reacts. That reaction is then pointed to as proof that they're unstable.
Which justifies more attacks.
Exactly. It anchors deeper CPTSD imprinting. It's a psychological algorithm designed to just completely break down your self-trust.
So this goes way beyond just hurt feelings.
Yeah.
If your nervous system is shot and your memory is compromised, let's talk about the soul-level impact.
This is the real target. The sources say it's engineered to wound your intuition, your self-trust, your creativity, your sense of safety, your connection to the divine. The soul is the battlefield because the real threat isn't your personality, it's your purpose.
Which is why they call CPTSD imprinting a spiritual technology. How does that technology work, specifically?
It's defined as a set of coordinated attacks to destabilize destiny carriers. It works through a few different methods of wounding. First, there's energetic overload.
Just constant pressure on your energy field.
Constant pressure until it starts to crack. And that's combined with emotional starvation. They systematically cut you off from genuine support, leaving you isolated.
And once you're isolated, they can start the narrative corruption.
Precisely. Your life story, your intentions, they all get rewritten by other people, often with these wild, malicious spins. And that leads to spiritual displacement, where you start questioning your own gifts, your calling, your creator. That's the end goal, total internal disorientation.
Okay, so given how subtle this all is, how could you, the listener, recognize if you're actually caught in one of these loops?
The sources give some very specific signs. One is a sudden, totally unexplainable hostility from people. It feels like they're responding to a signal, not to you.
And your own internal compass starts going haywire.
Yes, your intuition feels hijacked, you might have dream disturbances, and you'll see religious language being used as a control device, that prayer surveillance we talked about.
And the timing is key. Right.
Crucially, the isolation kicks in right when you're about to have a breakthrough or level up in your life. That pattern is the signature of a containment strategy.
It's that feeling that your creativity is jammed, or that opportunities just mysteriously vanish.
When you see those patterns together, the hostility, the timing, the spiritual jamming, you need a plan. You need what the source calls the executive survival blueprint.
So if the attack is energetic, the solution has to be energetic.
It has to be. And it's broken down into 4 steps. Number 1, anchor in spiritual governance.
Meaning what?
Non-negotiable daily practices. prayer, discernment, grounding, setting energetic boundaries. The principle is your spirit must outrank their influence. You have to go inward and upward, not outward at the chaos.
And step 2 brings us back to biology.
It does. Rebuild nervous system authority. This means slow, consistent regulation. Somatic exercises, breath work, cold plunges, whatever works for you. The key insight here is a regulated body makes you spiritually unhackable. Your physical state is your shield.
Regulation is security.
Okay.
And step 3 feels pretty intuitive.
It is. Stop the data leakage. The system thrives on your reactions, on your data. You have to protect your insights, your emotions, your plans. You give them nothing to copy, nothing to target. You starve the system.
And the final step is a total rebuild.
Restore identity in layers. You have to consciously reclaim your story, your intuition, your gifts, your boundaries, your sovereignty. It was dismantled layer by layer, so you have to rebuild it layer by layer.
So the exit strategy is really to break agreement with their story and then to rise above their frequency, move in silence.
Exactly. You have to reconnect with your source, not with the spectators.
Mm-hmm.
Find that internal guidance that they can't touch.
The sources end with this powerful collective call to action. They call this a silent epidemic that thrives on that very silence.
Yeah, it thrives because people isolate instead of unite, and they shame targets instead of trying to understand. The solutions are things like community education on these tactics, more spiritual literacy.
And building real survivor networks, giving form to the invisible.
That's how you take its power away.
So after all this,
Yeah.
what does it all mean? We've looked at this through mind, body, soul, spirit. It's a heavy deep dive, but it feels like it offers a real blueprint for sovereignty.
I think so. The core message is that this whole system relies on isolation and secrecy, that silence is the strategy. And the sources suggest that once the mechanics become common knowledge, the whole thing just collapses.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to take with you. The source material defines CPTSD imprinting as a spiritual technology used to destabilize destiny carriers. So, if the erosion of self-trust is intentionally engineered to stop you from reaching your purpose, what happens when you proactively apply that same strategic technological mindset to re-engineer your own confidence and clarity? What if you turn the blueprint of your injury into the blueprint for your own radical self-restoration? That's something for you to mull over.